It's rebuilding that identity so that you don't have to find motivation. You don't have to wait for motivation to strike or hope that you'll have motivation to go and work out every day, because you've built a person who values that in your new body and in your new lifestyle.
Welcome to the New You Game Plan, your blueprint for health and lifestyle transformation. I'm your host, KIRK CHARLES. There are moments in life when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the fear of change. Today's guest knows that feeling better than most. At one point, Lyss Remaly weighed nearly 350 pounds and had struggled with obesity since childhood. After undergoing bariatric surgery, she quickly discovered that the operation wasn't the finish line, it was just the beginning. The real transformation came through changing her mindset, rebuilding her relationship with food, embracing strength training, and committing to a healthier lifestyle every single day. That journey led her to lose more than 200 pounds and ultimately step onto the bodybuilding stage as a natural physique competitor. Today, Lyss shares her story to inspire others facing obesity, weight loss surgery, and the challenge of creating lasting habits. Please join me in welcoming Lyss Remaly to the New You Game Plan. How are you doing, Lyss?
Doing well, KIRK. Thank you so much for having me. And it is an honor to be here today, so thank you.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time out. I know you're a very busy lady. You're training clients. You got to stay in shape yourself. You're all over the place just doing miraculous things. And you took time to be with us here on the New You Game Plan. So let's jump into it, Lyss. Tell us about your background. Where'd you grow up?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, right outside in the northwest suburbs, about 30 minutes out from the city. Grew up in the suburbs, good family life, and, everybody knows each other down the block, and very, it was a lovely, lovely childhood. And of course, very early on in life, I had struggles with weight and went to a nutritionist when I was 4 years old for the first time. And so I became very aware at a very young age that there was something wrong with me. There wasn't something quite right with me. And while I was always very active in terms of I love theater, I love dancing and singing and acting and performing, I was never really what we would call an athletic child.
So when you were a child, Lyss, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
When you were a child, you said you were overweight, and at 4 you had to go to a nutritionist.
Yeah.
What was your typical diet as a 4-year-old? Do you remember?
That's a really interesting question. I haven't thought about that because at that age, I'm really eating what is essentially given, by family. And I know that my parents and those around me were very aware of what they gave. So it was whole wheat bread, and it was, carrot sticks, and it was scrambled eggs, and all of the good things that you would eat, good quality food. But of course, being a kid, I wanted my chicken nuggies, I wanted my mac and cheese, I wanted my yummy yummies. And so as I got a little older, we're talking 7, 8, 9, I realized that since I wasn't being given that food, when I sought it out, I had to eat it by myself in secret, because then I could eat whatever I want and no one could tell me no. No one could tell me that was enough or could stop me.
So you were eating in the closet by yourself?
Absolutely.
How old
It was
were you
kind
when
of
you
that
started?
mess. I'm sorry?
How old were you when you started doing that?
I would say about 8 or 9, in that age range. It really started happening when the bullying at school got really bad, but then when the parents of the kids I went to school with started bullying me, I really didn't want anyone to ever see me eating or see what I was eating. I got very self-conscious about comments people would make about what I would eat. And so the safest place to eat was alone in my own company. And at that same time, it became a comfort. It was my friend. It felt good. It was always there for me.
So the kids and the parents were bullying you?
Oh yeah, were just as brutal. If I had a carpool ride home with a student that I went to school with, I remember specifically I had a snack that I had for after school, and the father who was driving us goes, "Oh, are we eating again, Lyss? What are we eating now?" Those type of comments, and those stick with you.
So you're going through elementary school, junior high school, and then into high school. And
Yeah.
did things get progressively worse with the bullying, or how did you handle it?
The bullying got worse as I got older, because as kids age in general, they get a lot more clever and they get a lot more, you know, interesting with how they bully people. But as I got older, my survival technique was to be the funny fat girl. So I kind of leaned into that persona because if I was able to laugh at myself for being fat, it didn't hurt as much that everyone else was laughing at me for being fat. And so funny fat girl was really my safe guardian protector all the way up and through when I started losing my weight and decided to change my lifestyle.
Mm. So during that time period, were you depressed, so to speak? What was going on mentally as you
Yeah,
grew older?
I really was. If you would have asked me how I was to my face, I was great. Everything's awesome. I was happy and peppy and positive, and but I was also a very good actress. And so I was able to mask when it was out in public. But when I was alone, I was very lonely. I was very sad. I was very introverted. Later on in life, I also found out that I am neurodivergent. And so I had that piece going. But at that time, I didn't understand that that's what that was. So I was alone a lot. And so it really was, kind of me, myself, and I. And that was where I almost felt the safest because I wasn't sure what was going to happen out in the world when I stepped outside in public.
What is neurodivergence?
So neurodivergence is a way that the brain works. You could consider ADHD or ADD or the autism spectrum disorder. It's a different way the brain processes information or different sensory struggles or issues. And that all manifests itself. It is a spectrum, so it manifests itself different ways for different people.
And you were unaware of this when you were a child, correct?
I was unaware. I didn't get diagnosed on the spectrum until I was 35 years old, actually.
How does one get diagnosed with that?
Yeah, so when I to make a very long story short, I had, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but I had lost all of my weight. I had gone into bodybuilding, but then during the pandemic, I was alone by myself in an apartment and I really lost my identity of who I am. I wasn't the funny fat girl anymore. I wasn't the weight loss queen. I wasn't the bodybuilder anymore. And so I had to essentially rebuild who I am as a person. And that required a lot of self awareness. And I realized that there's something in my brain that is just not right. It's just different. And I couldn't put my finger on it. And of course, you Google and you kind of try to self diagnose. And so in my brain, in school, I had trouble learning. I had trouble making friends. I had trouble understanding what people were telling me. I have some sensory sensitivities. And so once I started really building the authentic identity of who I am as a person, aside from the weight, aside from the bodybuilding, it gave me an opportunity to really tune into something in my brain just works a little differently. I then go through it was a 9-week process of different types of tests and puzzles and questions. And they have you doing all these different games and different ways of how the brain works. after those 9 weeks, you sit down with a doctor and they basically tell you how your brain works. And they give you a whole list of this is what your brain does and this is why it does the way it does. And so it was another very important piece of my life transformation.
Now, going back to high school, do you remember how much you weighed in high school when you were being teased?
Yeah, in high school, I toggled between like 240 to 250, 270. And I was not super athletic, so it's not like I was active, but I was just a big, funny fat girl in school. But in theater, I got to play anyone I wanted to play, so it was a fun escape for a little while.
And then you went on to college, correct?
I did. So initially, when I was in my senior year of high school, I had got to a weight that was really uncomfortable. And at that point, I had done all the diets. We all know them. We've all done them. The cabbage soup diet, the zone diet, the Jenny Craig's, the Weight Watchers, all the things. I even went to fat camp a couple of times. And I had gotten to a point in my life where there was this sense of desperation. And that was when I decided at 16 was to have my bariatric surgery or weight loss surgery.
When you were doing those different diets or going through them, did your weight yo-yo or did you not lose any weight at all?
Yeah, they all had some form of success in one way or another. I'd lose a couple pounds, and then of course you're following this plan or diet that isn't sustainable. It's not enjoyable. And so as soon as I went back to eating what was comfortable, or maybe something happened in my life to trigger some sadness or trigger grief or those deep-seated emotions that we don't always know how to cope with, I go back to my comfortable coping skills of eating my mashed potatoes and sticking by myself and eating the burgers. And so I would still have that mentality even after the bariatric surgery. I expected the surgery to do the job for me, to be honest. And that's not the right mentality to have going into it, just so everyone knows.
And you had surgery at 16 years of age, you said?
16 years old, I had the lap band. Essentially, they take a silicone gastric band, they place it right over your stomach so you have a small pouch, and then the rest of the stomach is still there, but it gives you an amount of restriction that you can only really eat maybe half a cup of food at a time in one sitting.
So when you're eating that half a cup of food, you're full, but does that sensation eventually wear off? What happens?
It does, because there are two different problems going on usually when we struggle with our weight. There's actual hunger. Our body needs fuel to function and survive. And then there's food noise. There's the emotional cravings. And at that age, I didn't know that there was a difference between the two. And so I would eat because it's comfortable to me. I would eat because that was what numbed me or gave me something exciting to do in the moment. And that ultimately was what sent me backwards and ended up gaining my weight back plus 120 pounds.
So you have the surgery at 16 and then eventually you graduate high school and go on to college. What was
Yes.
your college experience like at that weight?
So college was very interesting because I went to college in Las Vegas. I went to the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. And Vegas is a tough city to live in when you're a bigger girl. There are some of the most beautiful, well-built people walking around out in the wild. Most of us just see them on a magazine or in a billboard, and they're walking down the strip just out doing their thing. And so there's a lot of comparing that goes on. I struggled because I wasn't able to get into some of the nightclubs because of my size. I wasn't able to really walk up and down the stairs of my apartment when I needed to carry my groceries up and down. And that was really when things kind of got to a point that really was not healthy. And I was very lucky to have what I call my click moment.
Was
And my
there
click,
was there a reason? Excuse me one second. Was there a
please.
reason? Was there a reason that you went to school in Vegas?
Yes. So I wanted to study hospitality and food and beverage management. So I wanted to be in the hotel business.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when was this click moment? What happened?
Yeah, so I was going to be flying home for the holiday. I'm in the Chicagoland area and I was in Las Vegas. And I went to go sit in my seat and I didn't fit in the seat. And they made me purchase the seat next to mine. And then I needed an extender seatbelt to be able to buckle myself in. And here I was at 21 years old. I mean, ugly crying, just so humiliated and ashamed of myself, and this sense of helplessness. And that was the moment I said to myself, I have to change. I don't know how, I don't know what it's going to look like, but I need to change because I cannot live like this anymore.
What was the first step you took to make that change?
First step I took was having a revision bariatric surgery. So I had the lap band initially, which is relatively the safest of the bariatric surgeries. And the revision that I had was the most invasive bariatric surgery, where they remove a portion of the stomach and reroute the digestive way that your body the way your body metabolizes food and how you get in your nutrients. So it was a very drastic surgical change. Again, I don't think my mind was in the right place when I had that revision, because in my mind, I thought the surgery is finally going to help me lose weight. And once I lose my weight, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to love who I am. I'm going to have the boys talking to me. This will be the thing. This will finally do it for me.
So you had that surgery and it did not work? Is that what you're
Well,
saying?
I wouldn't say it didn't work. It was successful, because that type of surgery and bariatric surgery in general, you will lose weight. There's a bit of a honeymoon phase, if you will. Those 12, 18 months after surgery, the weight falls off quite quickly if you stay within the guidelines of getting in your protein, moving your body, doing the follow-ups with your doctors. And I realized that my weight loss was going a little slower than other people that I had known in the community, and a little slower than my doctor would have liked. And that was when I realized, I think I have to start working out. I think I have to start moving my body now. And so that was the introduction into how am I going to move this body around and learn how to exercise.
Okay, so your first step was the surgery, your second step was exercise. Is that correct?
It was. Yeah, it
And
was.
what did you do? Did you just go to the gym, jump in? Did you go outside and run? What did
Nope,
you do?
nope, nope, nope. The gym was the scariest place in the world that I could ever think of, especially the gym in Las Vegas, because I know what these people look like in Vegas. So the gym was not an option. A group fitness class was not an option. I had this fear in my head that instructors would yell at you and embarrass you, and I didn't want to go that route. And so what I did was, alone in my apartment, I sat in a chair and I just started moving my body. I would move my arms up and down. I would twist my body side to side. I would raise my legs and march, and I would have fun music on in the background. So it was fun for me. I would chair dance and boogie and have some fun just to get used to moving my body. And
So
then I start,
how long did that period last where you were working out alone in your apartment in the chair?
that was about 5 or 6 months.
Hmm.
And
Okay. Then,
I added some dumbbells in a little bit, some resistance bands a little bit. And then I had lost some weight. I felt comfortable. And I thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to try the gym and see what that looks like. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, because Vegas is open 24 hours, 3 o'clock in the morning, when I was hoping there would be nobody in the gym, I walked in and I went to every machine that I could sit at because I was comfortable sitting. And I would put the weight at the lowest weight possible. I'd move the machine and try to feel what muscles were being worked and try to see how much weight I could lift in these machines. And I started to recognize that I was pretty strong. And that made me excited to go again and again. A few months later, I thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to try all the machines and see what happens. So I did the machines where you have to stand, or the machines where you maybe have to do squat type movements. And I guess you could say, you know, I drank the Kool-Aid and I fell in love with getting stronger and seeing muscles start to form and feeling, you know, my body getting stronger. And at this same time, you're losing weight as well because of the bariatric surgery. And at that time, there were no trainers out there who understood bariatric surgery and who understood the fitness and movement piece of that lifestyle. And
during that time period that you were exercising alone at home and going to the gym, did you make any dietary changes?
yes, definitely. So that was really where I became, they really ingrain it in your mind after weight loss surgery: protein, 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 protein. And so I was pretty diligent about getting in my protein through protein shakes, eating my, you know, chicken. If I went to McDonald's, I'd take the bun off the burger. You know, I wasn't perfect, but I was trying to navigate my way from a very not great mindset of eating to a new way of thinking and rebuilding my relationship with food. And so that was the struggle I was working with first before I decided to tackle the movement piece.
Was it recommended that you eat a lot of fruits and vegetables during that period, or was that a no-no?
Not as much, only because it's imperative that we get in our protein first. Because we can only get in a small amount of food at one time, the ideal way of eating is to get protein in first and then veggies. And then, if you are active, if you are working out, a minimum amount of low glycemic carbs. So maybe a little sweet potato, maybe a little bit of fruit, but certainly very minimal amounts of those things where protein is king and then veggies and fiber come right after.
And when you say protein is king, you do mean animal protein, not vegetable protein. Is that correct?
Correct. There are people who do prefer vegetable protein, and then, you know, there are options out there. But me personally, I love steak, I love chicken, I love fish. I'll eat all of the good proteins that are out there. And of course, protein shakes are a wonderful supplement as well, because if I can't eat the amount of food I need to get my protein, then I have to supplement with a protein shake so that I can still get that protein in my body.
What amount of protein were you looking to eat or digest?
Yeah. The goal after surgery is about 90 to 100 grams. And at that time, when I was really getting into the strength building part, I was looking at between 100 to 120 grams of protein a day. Some days I nailed it, some days I didn't. And those were all great learning lessons for myself as I was going through this journey.
So we're looking for at 90 grams of protein a day or higher up to 120. What about the ratio or amount of carbs and fats? Did you have a number you were looking at?
Well, carbs are at a very, very minimum. So they really recommend minimizing carbs as much as possible. So if I was going to do a carb, maybe once a week, I'd have a quarter of a burger and I would do that. Or maybe once a week, I'd let myself have a pancake. Or, they were more treats than an everyday nutrient that would have in my diet. Most of the carbs would be from vegetables.
So at the time that you started working out, sitting in the chair, working out, going to the gym, give us a timeline of your weight loss. Did you jot everything down, and did you say maybe you lost 10 pounds a month or 20 a month? What was your rate of weight loss?
Yeah. So it worked out that within the first 3 years, so from 2010 to 2013, I had lost about 90 to 100 pounds in that time frame. And when I had got to my goal weight, which was 150 pounds at the time, that was around 2014. That was when I kind of started contemplating the idea of maybe getting into some bodybuilding type lifting. When I hit my goal weight, I wanted to do something to celebrate my goal weight. And a lot of people in the community, they were doing 5Ks or they were doing these bike-a-thons or swim. And I was always of the mindset, if you see me running, call for help because somebody's chasing me. I'm not running on purpose. And bodybuilding, it was a great opportunity to get even stronger, to learn more about building muscle and building a body that was strong and capable and beautiful without having to run.
So that's a really big step. I mean, yes. I know most people do run or engage in some type of event like that, but jumping up on a stage in a bikini, that's a big step.
That was a big step. And
did you have friends who were doing that also? Did they push you a little bit, or you just
No, I did not. This was all me. And no help. Because again, no one had ever had bariatric surgery before and gone on to do bodybuilding. So I was kind of, in no man's land.
So you decided to jump into bodybuilding. Once you made that decision, how long was it before you actually got on stage?
Yeah, so I had got to my goal weight around 2014, and I had kept my weight off for about a year. And at that time, I needed to have a skin removal surgery because when you lose that much weight that quickly, no matter how much muscle you build, your body looks a little bit like melted candle wax. And so I had a tummy apron that hung down to the middle of my thighs. I had bat wings that could bring up a swift breeze if I waved too hard to somebody. So I moved forward with getting a skin removal surgery and recovered from that. And so at the end of 2015, I decided to step on stage for the first time after prepping. I had done a long prep. I had done the bodybuilding 12-week cut to lose body fat so that I looked lean and cut on stage. And that very first competition was the very first time I had ever worn a bikini in my entire life.
Well, congratulations to you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, how did you do in that first competition?
I won. And I tell you what, Kirk, standing on that stage with a trophy in hand, looking out into the crowd, and I might get emotional. I was so proud of how far I had come. I had made a goal for myself and I reached it. And, you know, telling people that I was going to get into bodybuilding didn't quite believe me that that's how that was going to go. They're like, okay, yeah, sure you are. Yeah, enjoy bodybuilding. Yeah, okay, go ahead. But the fact that I actually got on that stage, but the fact that I won, it was one of the most incredible moments of my life.
Have you been in any pageants or competitions since that time?
I did. So after I won that competition, I gave my body a little bit of recovery time, but then I was like, let's go. Let's do another one. I loved it. I love training for bodybuilding. I love that it requires a strict routine way of eating, which works for me. It's really helpful for me to not have to stress or worry about it. And then I decided to step on stage again in 2017 and I won that competition. And that was the competition that won me my pro card in natural bodybuilding.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
So you are a professional bodybuilder now.
I guess we could say that. Yeah, technically.
All right, congratulations. That sounds so great. So
Thank
this is
you.
a true transformation, remarkable story, if I may
Thank
say
you.
so. And what is what is the key, or what are the one or two keys to getting the weight off and maintaining it and making sure it stays off?
Yeah. So how I like to explain that to people, there are a million ways to lose weight. We all find something that works for us in terms of how we lose the weight. And maybe it's a diet, an exercise plan or program. Maybe it's GLP-1 shots. Maybe it's weight loss surgery. Whatever the thing is that helps you lose the weight is really great to find to lose the weight. But then you have to switch your mindset into thinking, okay, now how do I rebuild my life so that this is who I am? This is how I live. I'm going to be the person who enjoys going for a walk every single day. I'm the person who wants a strong body and I like going to the gym. It's rebuilding that identity so that you don't have to find motivation. You don't have to wait for motivation to strike or hope that you'll have motivation to go and work out every day, because you've built a person who values that in your new body and in your new lifestyle. And so there's a shift between weight loss mode and life mode.
And now you've had this great success. You are now helping others do the same thing. Is that correct?
That is correct. It sure is. After keeping my weight off for over a decade, I've learned lessons along the way. And like I said, I've educated myself with several certifications along the way so that I can speak in an educated way to other people and help them understand. But I think every single person deserves to feel good in their own body and live a lifestyle that they enjoy, whatever that looks like.
So you became a personal trainer.
I did. Yep. And that happened right after my first bodybuilding competition was when I officially got certified.
So you're a personal trainer. What other certifications do you hold?
Yeah, so I have my certification for personal training. I have my group fitness certification, which was ultimately what led to me creating my own group fitness class based on my chair fitness experience. I also have a mental health and well-being coaching certification. I have a chair yoga certification, as well as behavior change and management expertise certification.
And tell us about your business now. Is there anything that you'd like us to know?
Oh, absolutely. So a huge part of figuring out how to move my body was starting with sitting. And so when I work with people for the first time, maybe people who are afraid to go to the gym, maybe people who have a fear of exercise or working out, I always like to tell them to start with sitting. And so we start there, but I also teach and coach a lifestyle based program. So we're not just doing movement, but we're building a lifestyle that includes movement that they enjoy, includes healthy sleep patterns, includes hydration, but in a way that works for them. So I teach and coach and support individuals to help them build and become their own coach so that they can make the changes that they need to make that work for them throughout their life.
So, how do we get in contact with you? What is your social media, website, any information you'd like to give us?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. Absolutely. So on Instagram, it's Fabulous Fit Life, Fabulous Lyss Fit Life. Also, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube are all Fabulous Fit Life. And the official website should be out shortly. I'm working on that. It is the same, fabulousfitlife.com. Also, sitfitforlife.com. Sit Fit for Life is my chair-based fitness class. I share that on YouTube. I also go to groups and retirement homes. I go to weight loss support groups. I go to conventions and conferences and teach Sit Fit for Life to give people a fun and exciting new way to move their body.
All right, Lyss, one last question for you.
Please.
What does the future look like for Lyss? What about the next 10, 20, 30 years? What do you see?
Oh gosh. So I would love for Sit Fit for Life to become a trademark and license class. You'll see it along with Zumba. You'll see it along with Pound and Work. It is going to be a branded, well-known class so that people can go to the gym and feel excited to be there. They can access movement and exercise in a way that's fun, but they can also learn about lifestyle pieces that maybe they can incorporate in their everyday life. There's going to be a coaching and training program so that people can get certified in Sit Fit for Life so they can teach it. There are also going to be educational seminars that I'm going to be teaching about lifestyle transformation and identity-based transformation, which was, what we discussed is what that difference is between losing the weight and keeping it off. And then I would love to be a speaker and speak at conferences, conventions, schools, and hopefully make an impact in how people care for themselves. Again, no matter what that looks like.
Well, the future looks very bright for you, Lyss. I must say, congratulations, kudos. You deserve every bit of your success. So thank you for being here with us today. I really appreciate it. And we're looking towards some big things from you.
Thank
we're
you.
watching.
Oh, and what an honor. Thank you for the opportunity to let me share my story. And thank you for what you do, having such a wonderful support for this community who just want to be a little bit better every day.
All right, Lyss. Thank you so much. And I hope to speak with you soon.
I hope so too. Thank you. Enjoy your day.
You too. Bye-bye.
If Lyss's story inspired you, share this episode with someone who needs hope today. And remember, transformation isn't about one big moment. It's about thousands of small decisions that reshape your identity. Keep building your blueprint. Keep moving forward. And until next time, stay strong, stay healthy, and remember, the new you is right there in front of you.